The morning was cold enough to sting the lungs, the kind of sharp winter air that made even the richest man in the city pull his coat tighter. Luxury cars rolled past the marble steps of a downtown corporate tower in Chicago, their engines humming like they owned the street. On the sidewalk, barely noticed, sat a woman wrapped in layers of worn fabric, her hands trembling as she clutched a cardboard sign with fading letters. Most people walked past her without a glance. One of them was a man who once promised her forever. He didn't recognize her anymore, or maybe he chose not to, and that would have been the end of it, if not for a child who stopped, turned back, and shattered a lifetime of lies in a single moment. Before this story goes any further, take a second. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that no soul is ever truly invisible, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are still listening. Richard Hale had built his empire with ruthless discipline. Raised in a small Ohio town, he had sworn he would never be poor again after watching his parents struggle to pay bills and bury dreams. By 52, he was a respected real estate tycoon, living in a glass-walled penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. His suits were tailored, his schedule packed, and his heart armored. The past, especially the painful parts, had been locked away behind success and silence. He told himself that was strength. That morning, Richard walked briskly toward his car, his mind already racing through meetings and contracts. Beside him walked his 12-year-old son, Michael, a quiet boy with thoughtful eyes who noticed things adults no longer did. Michael had been spending more time with his father lately, after his boarding school break, trying to understand the man everyone admired, but few truly knew. As they passed the corner near the tower entrance, the woman on the sidewalk lifted her head. Her face was weathered, marked by time and hardship, but her eyes still carried a familiar softness. Richard's gaze skimmed over her and moved on. To him, she was just another reminder of what he had escaped. He felt the usual flicker of irritation, the uncomfortable guilt he buried under excuses about personal responsibility. Michael, however, slowed his steps. Something in the woman's posture, the way she held herself despite the cold, tugged at his memory. He felt his chest tighten with a strange recognition he couldn't immediately explain. As his father continued walking, Michael stopped completely. He turned back and stared at the woman more closely. Her hair, streaked with gray, fell in uneven strands from beneath a knit cap. Her hands were cracked and red from the cold, but beneath all that, there was something unmistakable. The curve of her cheek, the shape of her eyes, the way she looked at him, startled, almost afraid to hope. Michael felt the world tilt. His heart began to pound as memories surfaced, old photographs tucked away in a box he once found. A woman smiling in faded colors, a warmth he remembered from early childhood before everything changed. He looked at his father's back, then at the woman again, and without understanding how he found the courage, he spoke up, telling his father that the woman behind them was his mother. Richard froze. The city noise seemed to dull around him as he slowly turned. Annoyance flashed across his face at first, ready to dismiss his son's imagination. But when his eyes met the woman's, something deep inside him cracked. The years peeled away in an instant, replaced by a flood of memories he had buried under ambition and pride. Sarah Hale had not always been a beggar. She had once been the center of Richard's world. They met in church in their early 20s, bonded by faith, hope, and dreams bigger than their bank accounts. She believed in him when no one else did, prayed for him when his business failed, and held their newborn son with tears of gratitude. But when success finally came, it came with distance. Richard grew impatient with her gentleness, embarrassed by her insistence on humility and service. Arguments replaced prayers, absence replaced affection. When Sarah fell ill and medical bills piled up, Richard made choices he still justified to himself. He focused on saving his company, believing money would solve everything later. Later never came. By the time he realized how far apart they had grown, Sarah was gone from his life, leaving behind silence and a child who learned early not to ask questions. Standing there now, Richard saw the cost of his choices written across Sarah's face. Life without support had been unforgiving. After losing her job and then her home, pride kept her from reaching out. Faith kept her alive. She had stayed near the city because she hoped, foolishly perhaps, that one day her son might pass by. She never imagined it would happen like this. Michael moved closer to her, his heart aching with confusion and longing. He didn't understand how the world could be so cruel or how love could vanish into poverty. All he knew was that this woman felt like home. Richard felt something he hadn't felt in decades, shame without defense. The empire he built suddenly felt small. The suits, the cars, the power, all of it meaningless in the face of a woman he once vowed to protect, now shivering on a sidewalk. People began to slow down, sensing something unusual. But Richard barely noticed them. He knelt in front of Sarah, ignoring the cold stone beneath his knees, and for the first time in years, allowed himself to feel. Memories of prayer nights, laughter in small apartments, and a child's first steps crashed over him. He realized that success had not saved him from loss, it had caused it. Change did not come instantly, and forgiveness did not erase the past. But that day marked the beginning of a long, painful, beautiful journey back to humanity. Richard arranged for Sarah to receive medical care, a warm place to stay, and time to heal, time to rebuild trust. He didn't try to buy redemption. He worked for it, learning again how to listen, how to serve, how to be present. Michael became the bridge between them, his quiet faith and simple love reminding them both of what mattered. Sundays returned to church. Meals were shared without phones. The city skyline still glittered, but it no longer defined Richard's worth. Near the end of winter, as snow melted into the streets, Sarah stood stronger, her eyes brighter. She wasn't fully restored, but she was no longer invisible. And Richard understood something he wished he had learned sooner. Kindness delayed can become regret, but kindness chosen can still redeem. If this story is touching your heart right now, if it's reminding you of someone you've overlooked or a second chance you've been afraid to take, please like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps spread stories that awaken compassion in a world that desperately needs it. And before this story ends, I have a special request. Please comment the word grace if you believe no one is ever too far gone to be found again. Because sometimes, the richest moment in a man's life is not when he gains the world, but when a child stops, looks back, and reminds him who he once loved and who he still can be.